There are more than 87,000 people in jail in England and Wales, and on release, almost half of them reoffend and end up back in prison. It's a cycle that's very hard to break. One key problem faced by ex-prisoners is lack of access to a bank account. Without that, employers can be reluctant to give them a job and landlords unwilling to rent them even a room. But ex-prisoners find it hard to get most high street banks to offer them even basic banking facilities. One project is trying to change that. The Cooperative Bank is working with 30 prisons and opening bank accounts for prisoners close to their release date. One of these is in Ranby Prison in Nottinghamshire. It's a low-security Category C jail, but every door is locked and unlocked as you walk through. The fences are probably 6 metres high, and every building is topped with barbed wire. I was free, though, to walk round and chat to prisoners, and when I asked about getting a bank account last time they were outside, it was clear many of them had found it impossible.
My experience trying to get a bank account when I left prison last time was I went there, I took my ID, birth certificate, driving licence, that went to the counter, and I got told that I couldn't join the account. I got recommended, and the person who had to recommend me, I had to have an account with them for 3 years.
I'm off for parole in March 2011.
So you could be thinking about getting a bank account now, so that when you go out you'll have
I've been through this issue before. They say to you that because you haven't got an earliest date of release, that you can't have one.
So you've got to wait for your parole decision and then you might get one then?
Yeah.
Well, one of the prisoners who's recently opened an account is Peter. At 29, he's been in and out of prison since he was 13, and in November, he'll be free again. He told me why he'd never opened a bank account before.
When I got a job and that with my bank account, they wanted my bank account details, and obviously I couldn't give it them, so I didn't have it. So I had to use my family's, but you only can use them for so long. They just kept getting on my back and that about needing my own account and can't be using other people's. So I ended up losing my job, or I just quit because I got sick of hassling.
Did you try to get a bank account?
I've tried, yeah, but because of my ID and stuff, and I didn't have the right ID for a bank account.
What's happened now? You're going to get a bank account, are you? Or have you actually got one?
We've got one sorted now with Co-op Bank.
What was the process like? Was it easy to get one?
I can't believe how easy it was. It was so quick to get one here, so... And I have tried loads of times outside the prison not to get a bank.
When you get back out, you've been in jail a lot during your life. How determined are you to stay out?
I want to stay out. I've had enough now. Grown up. Got qualifications as well while I've been in prison, and that's something I've never had before.
What are they in?
Rail track. Done the rail track course and I got my fork truck licence.
So you can get a decent job when you get out?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for get on rail tracks and that.
So with a decent job, somewhere to live, a bank account, ID, you really feel now that this is your opportunity to...
Just give me a chance. I've got a chance now.
What would you say to the banks? What would you say to them about letting ex-offenders have a proper bank account?
Just give them a chance. They need a bank if they want to. Some of them, it'll help them to stop reoffending and that. So.
Peter's account is with the Co-op. Tim Franklin, Chief Operating Officer of Cooperative Financial Services, told me why the bank does it.
We see helping people to resettle and not reoffend as a way of improving society and the community as a whole. We want to do our bit to help them.
And how do you overcome the problems that many prisoners talk to me about, which is you try and open a bank account, but you haven't got an address, you haven't got ID?
These accounts are opened before the prisoner leaves the prison, and therefore we've been able to satisfy ourselves that they are who they say they are by dealing directly with the prison.
It is only a basic bank account, though, isn't it? There's no access to credit, there's no credit cards, there's no overdraft facility, no chequebook. That might be difficult.
A basic bank account still provides all the things that people need in their everyday lives for banking. It doesn't provide access to credit, but that's probably right for people who are just re-establishing themselves in society.
How quickly can they migrate from a basic bank account to what you or I would consider to be a more normal current account?
That really depends on the way in which they run the account.
And what's your experience? Do they generally manage them well?
Generally, they are managed well, yeah, which is one of the reasons why we are key proponents of this type of arrangement between banks and prisons. We've pioneered it. We think other banks should do it too. And if you look at the evidence, John Moores University did some research in 2009 which demonstrated that reoffending rates amongst prisoners with bank accounts after release was down by 1/3.
Well, the Co-op is a small bank and reluctant to expand the service beyond the 30 prisons it works with. As Tim Franklin says, they want the big 5 high street banks to join in too. Barclays and Halifax have run pilots, but otherwise interest has been low, even though the Ministry of Justice told us it has what it calls an open dialogue with them. Well, I've now to talk to Chris Barth from Unlock, the National Association of Reformed Offenders. Chris Barth, your organisation has been active in persuading banks to offer accounts, but why are some of them so reluctant to join in?
I think in the first case, when we started looking at this about 5 years ago, there were some genuine, real practical issues, as Tim suggested, things like ID, address histories, but those are things that we've been able to overcome over the last 5 years in the pilot projects we've been involved in. And of course, you've got this general issue of whether people are perceived to be immediately profitable. I think that's obviously difficult for banks whose priorities may be about rebuilding balance sheets and various mergers and things that are going on.
Yes, because even if ex-offenders achieve what Peter clearly hopes to achieve, they're not going to have vast amounts of money and buy financial services from the banks. It's going to be a basic current account that doesn't earn the bank anything.
Well, as you said, there are many thousands of people in prison, and they're not all the same at all. Some people will go on to earn very low incomes. Some people could potentially be extremely successful. There's no limit on them in that sense. So our argument is that in the same way as someone walking in the door in a branch asking for a basic bank account, you can't tell where that person's going to go.
No.
It's really about giving them the basic tools and allowing them to take it as far as they can do.
And giving them a chance. And we heard this week in the news that Secretary of State for Justice Ken Clarke is in favour of initiatives to help ex-offenders stay out of jail. We mentioned, Tim Franklin mentioned this research. Does having a bank account really help you stay out of jail?
It really does. I mean, financial inclusion, access to financial services is a foundation for so much of the work that individuals and professional staff do in prisons. On the practical side, in order to get a job, in order to get stable accommodation, the biggest statistical reducers of reoffending, you need a bank account. And then more broadly, as the research that Liverpool John Moores showed up and our own experience has shown, people just feel more included. They feel normal, and that cognitive change makes a big difference.
Yes. So given that, and given the government's commitment, should it be doing more to persuade banks to offer these schemes to every jail? After all, the government practically owns one bank and has a big share in another.
Yeah, I think that the government's got a great opportunity here to be slightly brave and to say something that's positive around prison work. The British Bankers Association has been very helpful in facilitating discussions with the bank, and the Ministry of Justice and the Treasury have all been very supportive of our sort of Unlocking Banking project. But this needs to be made explicit by ministers if the banks are going to change their priorities.
Chris Barth from Unlock, thanks very much for talking to us.